Hi, and welcome to another episode of Doing It Yourself. And let's just get right into this. It's a Mr. Cool install. I'm going to try to show you as much as I can. And we're starting here in the electrical panel. This is a sub panel for me. The yellow, so I have a 12,000 BTU unit. You just have to look in the manual what they suggest for your wire size. So 12 gauge and 20 amp circuit breaker. And I'm just trying to show you what this looks like in the panel. If you've never seen an electrical panel inside or understand it, black is your live wire, your hot wire. White's a neutral. The ground is the bare copper. Neutral and copper are going to the same place ultimately. And even in the sub panel, it's wired where that ground is going in. So anyways, you put the black wire in the circuit breaker with the circuit breaker switched off. Connect your neutral and your bare copper into that same bar, and that's all there is to it. It's really easy inside the panel. And then when all this is hooked up, we'll just simply flip the circuit breaker switch on and it's ready to rock and roll. So that's the panel, and now I'm going to open up the boxes, and there's an outdoor unit box, indoor unit box. The indoor unit box is going to have everything in it except there's like a clear hose that was in the box with the outdoor unit. The outdoor unit box, the box slides off of it. The indoor unit box, you got to pull the unit out of the box. You can see it's kind of a struggle to get it out of there. It's got these two big foam pieces holding it in. And I'm just showing you everything that comes with it. It's got the gas line and what you need to go into the wall with it. It's got the clear tube for running. That's where the condensation, the water drips out, and it produces quite a bit of water condensation. And there's a filter that goes inside the indoor unit there, a special wrench for turning the gas on. It's just an Allen wrench. Remote control and the instruction owner's manual. There's a template for the wall that I'm going to show you, which I'm going to start with the indoor unit. And I'm showing you the indoor unit. The first thing you do with this indoor unit is take off the bracket on the back, the metal bracket. You're going to see it come off. There's just one screw holding it to the unit. And all this stuff is already hooked up. So the black coiled up is your, I forget what the terminology is, like line set. It's the electrics feeding the indoor unit from the outdoor unit, because you're going to plug from that circuit breaker panel. Those wires go into the outdoor unit, and then from there, that's going to energize the indoor unit with the black cable. And so once I've got this panel off, you get access to the drain hose, which is on top, which is the white plastic, but then inside of the foam are your two lines. So you just want to make sure you're going to bend these back so they point directly outward. And they're designed to move this 90 degree. But just be careful when you do it, because you don't want to pinch anything. So especially the smaller, there's a thicker tube and a thinner tube. The thinner tube is definitely very delicate, and you could definitely bend that, pinch that easily. And if you get into that situation, you're going to have to figure out a way to fix it. I have not encountered that. This is the second unit I've installed. And this is the 12,000 BTU. This is the 4th gen. I think they call it like Easy Pro, something like that. My last one was the 3rd gen normal version, but I was a little concerned that with the electrical requirements of this, it shows minimum amp rating of 20 and then maximum 30. But I've been running on the 20 amp now for a few days. It works just fine on the 20 amp circuit. With it does say in the instruction manual, it recommends 12 gauge cable, which is your yellow, designed for 12 20 amp breaker. So this is jumping around quite a bit, I know, but what I'm trying to do here is I've pre-drilled 4 holes using that template for where the 4 main screws are. They're going to hold up the bracket piece we took off the metal bracket. Now I'm going and I'm drilling. I put the I put a hole exactly in the middle of where the lines will all go outside through, and I'm drilling the hole for that to go outdoors. So I have insulation in there, you just pick that out, and then I reinstall the bracket for this to sit on. Attaches once you get the lines through, and that is later. You line up all your lines. Once you can get those through there, it's just a matter of setting it down on the two. As you can see on the top right and top left, there's little tabs that stick up. You just put those on the top of the unit, and then you push it, and it snaps into place on the bottom. So then, if you ever wanted to get it off, which I've needed to do with my previous one because it had a fan inside that was broken, and I didn't know that. We hooked it up, and it was really, really noisy. And we're like, man, this doesn't sound right. And it actually tripped that circuit breaker that we had on there. Don't try to put a GFCI or arc fault circuit breaker because it'll just keep breaking. So you just put a normal breaker on it. But I thought I would do that, you know, just as a precautionary thing. That didn't work out at all. That was a bad idea. So, and that's from Mr. Cool. When I called their tech support guys, they're like, don't install that, you know, just normal standard circuit breaker. Otherwise, it gets noises or whatever that thinks it's shorting out, but it wasn't. So, should be looking now on finagling this in through the wall. Gonna snap it into place, and that's all there is to the indoor unit installation. Other than you want to take off, you know, tape that's holding that door. And what happens is, well, you can see where my right hand is that actually it'll come down right before the fan starts blowing, and that's where the air comes out. So there's that all horizontal, the bottom part of it's where the air is coming out. But get inside there, make sure they don't taped up anything, and there's nothing. You throw that little, at the beginning there was like this little rectangular filter. They give you one. I don't know why they give you one, but you put it in there, and I guess it does something. So from the outside, all the lines are sticking through, and then we're drilling a hole for the electrical feed to come out. I use this 90-degree bend. I forget what they call it, LB or something. But I'm caulked around, caulk the building hole, and then drill this into the side of the building, and then you got a nice watertight seal. And I went back and caulked this more later, of course, just to make sure everything was watertight. But this area doesn't get a lot of water. You want to install this out of the wind as much as possible and away from the weather. And this works out great. You'll see later where this is. They recommend you have a bunch of space in front and then even behind, but if you wall mount it, I think it's like 18 inches behind it. You can't possibly get that with the wall mounts, so you just need enough where the air is going to be able to circulate. The fan pulls it through the fin, so as you're looking at it here, I'm taking this off. And what I'm going to do is mount this to 2 boards, and then I want it off the ground, so I'm putting it on concrete blocks. Shouldn't be a problem. The concrete blocks are heavy, and then the boards, stop it from grounding itself too, which I guess is probably a good thing. If you're directly onto the ground, you could get, shorted out easily. I don't know. Probably never going to be a problem. But in order to get a bolt through that foot, you have to unscrew your protective shield here in order to get that bolt in. So then I'm going to mess around with this some more and attach these 2 boards, and then we'll head outside, and then I'm going to Tapcon those boards to the concrete blocks, and that's going to be my setup. Your setup, set it up how you want to, just whatever makes sense, what's logical. Don't try to read into it. The instruction manual is great. All the steps in there is everything you need. There's torque specs even on when we get later into the gas line. Everything's in there. The electrical requirements in there, but use common sense too if there's any question. It is good, but like this setup, it'll tell you certain things on how to mount the outdoor unit. You just need enough space for it to blow air through it, because it's going to use all those little coiling fins, which are very, very delicate, by the way, so be careful with that. I should say that right now. Don't grab it by those coiled fins. You'll bend those up. They're very delicate. So you want to grab it by the, the steel structure of that outdoor unit. Don't like pinch the fins anyway. And I'm also setting this kind of right in the middle of the space I have, because it will, as it sucks the air through it, it's going to suck dust and debris into the fins. And to be able to clean those, you need space to get in there and use your little, brush to clean it out. And then you want to just, kind of water it down with the hose lightly to get them clean. And that's all there is to cleaning the outdoor unit. Once you get this hooked up and it's sealed up, you want to make sure, so here's my electrical, and this is a whip that I'm going to run that Romex wire through. And then on this end where it goes on the right, and that's a compression fitting, but I'm gluing the whip to the LB, and then I'll run that electrical wire through there. And it's very cramped in there, so you have the black cable coming from the indoor unit to the outdoor unit, and you have to get all those wires in this little contained area on the outdoor unit with the 12 gauge, which is, a thicker cable, and it's harder to bend than 14 gauge wire. So you've got a pretty stout feed coming in with, it's 4 lines. There's 3 lines plus a ground wire coming from the indoor unit. So you're going to have 7 wires inside of this little contained area. So you got to kind of pre-bend all your wires and get everything lined up. And I use the little connectors, so on the ends of these, and I'll show you that. I just found when I did my other one, I was having trouble with the wires staying in the screws without, crimping those to the connectors and then screwing that into the unit. But you'll see that. And this just has 3 screws holding this cover on. The bottom part where you see the blue and the white plastic is where the gas lines go. And they show doing the gas lines first. I do the electrical first because I'm going to come back the next morning and finish this. So I'm working on this. It's kind of windy out, even though you can't see it here because I'm blocked from the wind mostly, but it is windier and colder this day, and it was going to warm up the next. So I thought I would do the gas line the next day, because that's the thing that I've only done once before, but I didn't have a problem. But the electrical is where I had a lot of frustration, so I wanted to do that first and get it out of the way. It's just a matter of getting, so here I'm pointing, 1, 2, 3, that's the inside, and then over here is where you put your, the source power. And you got to get everything crammed in under this cover, and it's tight in there. So you got to cut your wire, pretty much exactly what you need. You can leave a little bit and kind of curl them back. That's what I did, just in case, on the source wires. But the other wires you don't cut because they're all pre-done. So I wire those up first, knowing that's what I have to do. You have to take off a green screw on the bottom right for your ground wire, and then the other 3 plug right in. And here I'm showing where the 2 conduit connectors come in. And then, so that's from the indoor unit, the green, ground, and then there's numbers that you can't really make out here, but 1, 2, 3, and just make sure that you're on 1, 2, and 3 corresponding from the indoor wires. Have 1, 2, 3 written on one side of the wire. Just make sure you plug those in. The colors don't match necessarily. I don't think they matched at all. Yeah, I don't think they matched at all, but they are numbered 1, 2, 3, and it did work that way. So just go 1, 2, 3. Don't worry about your colors. And then on your source, you're just going to have an L and an N, I believe, and then the ground. So L is for your black or your live wire, your hot wire. Neutral is in, obviously. And that's what I'm showing you there with those. I use those crimp connectors. It just worked out better. I don't know why, but it did. Because when it was throwing the breaker, that was another thing that I had once you put the cover on, then they got loose in there because it's so tight, because you got to use a little bit of pressure and push that cover over the top. So now the electrical's wired in. I'm in here in the next morning and I'm going to do the gas lines. Basically, I think it's like propane gas is what, it's 410A gas? I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I'm going to hand screw these on as far as they'll go. And then I'm going to take 2 wrenches. And what I found right off the bat was that I think the top one wasn't screwed down tight to the where it goes into the unit. So I've got where I'm working on it right now, I have to torque that down. But then I figured out, well, I got to torque down the whole thing. I got to make sure all these are all tightened down. And I bought the torque crescent wrench when I did my last unit, so I have that. If you don't have that, these basically bottom out when you're tightening them. So I mean, the torque wrench is almost not even worth investing in, because you're just basically tightening it down as tight as it goes. And if you put force on it and it's a decent amount of force, but not like crazy, you don't want to over tighten and like break something. But you need a pretty good amount of force on it, and they're connected, so don't be intimidated by this part. And again, you know, if you do this wrong, this can be fixed later by somebody else. So tackle this yourself, and if it goes wrong, have the pros do it at that point. But I'm just doing this video because I want everybody to see, you know, an amateur do this. And if you're thinking about installing one of these, it's not a big deal at all. You just need to wire a dedicated circuit for it from the panel, and then you hook up the gas lines. I mean, this is basically DIY stuff. So if you're a DIYer and you're thinking about doing this, you can definitely do this. And like I always say, if you do it wrong, somebody else can come in and fix it. So here I'm holding the crescent wrench as I'm tightening that so I don't twist the you know, the part that's connected to the unit. I really spent a lot of time torquing these down. Like I wanted all these, so at this point I'm using that torque wrench there. And you can see how much that's bending. I mean, I'm putting a decent amount of force, but I'm not using all of my, like, decent amount of force, but like not all of it. But, you know, it's just something I don't do every day, so I'm not familiar with what it should feel like. But I'm using the torque wrench. I torqued the top one down exactly to the spec, which was like 20 foot-pounds. The bottom one was rated at like 45 foot-pounds or recommended. I got it over 30, and I thought, man, this is a lot of force on this. So I was like somewhere around 35. And I think that's what I did on the last one too, because it starts to really feel not right, like too much. When you do it, you know, you might find that too, that's too much. So I'm going to end the voiceover here because I have no idea. This is like buffering weird on me because I've got so many clips going on. But, you know, sit back and enjoy the rest of the install. I'm just hooking up these caps on the ends, and then I'm going to open up the lines with the Allen wrench. And I have a soapy, I just took dish soap in a water bottle, spritz that over the connections after I pressurized this and had it on, and check for leaks that way. So, you know, good luck. Thanks for watching. I know this isn't the best DIY video, but the idea is you watch this. It worked for me right off the bat, no problems. The only issue I had on the other one I did was there was a broken fan inside the unit, and I called Mr. Cool and they got me the replacement piece, and it all worked out. So, thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Alright, so this is a break from my normal voiceover. I wanted you to actually hear the unit, how much noise it should make if it's running correctly. Yeah, I tested these for leaks with the soapy water. I'm just waiting for everything to dry up nice, and I'll wrap it all. And the Pelican migration continues. So Here's the inside unit. That's how quiet it should be. If it's louder than that, there's probably an issue. And it could be, there's a cylindrical fan in there that could be lined up wrong. Maybe you just unscrew the set screw. You can slide it back and forth. I had that problem with the last one. Actually, it was broken. I had to replace the fan. But Mr. Cool itself is really good with service. We bought this from Bed Bath & Beyond, but Mr. Cool will service it. So this is doing a good job. It's actually 70 degrees according to the thermostat there. We hooked up the remote over here, and that's 68. So yeah, I just didn't want the sun hitting that directly, and I wanted it far enough away where getting a good representation of the temperature in here. Thanks for watching.